Hello. Beginning of October, so it's time to talk about the books that I read in September. These are some of the digital hardback copies that I read. And I read 8. So it wasn't too bad a month, really. I read 4 from Netgalley and 4 off the Booker long list. So I'll start in the order that I read them. The first book I read was The Ice Whisperers by Helenka Stachera, and this was by Netgalley. And do you know, I cannot remember when all these come out. They will be in the description box down below when they come out, but I think this is a November-ish time. But again, you know, just bear with me. So The Ice Whisperers is a middle grade book, and it's set in icy Siberia. And we have 2 sisters, Bella and Renya, and they are separated not by distance, but by years. 40,000 years separate the 2 sisters. And Bella lives with her Aunt Olga because she was sent away when her mother became ill. And when her mother dies, her uncle Victor decides that he wants Bella to go and live with him. So she leaves Aunt Olga and she sets off to icy Siberia to stay at Uncle Victor's house. And there she hopes that she's going to have family, because she never knew her father. Her father died on an expedition and her mother was ill, so she never really got to know her because her mother stayed with Uncle Victor the whole time. So she's grown up really not knowing her parents, not having any family apart from Aunt Olga, who you could hardly describe as being a loving person. So when she gets to Uncle Victor's house, she finds that it's full of secrets, and her father's assistant Eva, who is still working on her late father's finds, she warns Bella that she's in a dangerous place and she needs to go. So with Bella's help, she crosses to the spirit world, and there she meets her sister, Renya, her 40,000-year-old sister. And she finds that in the spirit world there are dangers, and she and Renya have got to fight these dangers. And it's a story of family. It's a story of 2 sisters getting to know each other, to get to know their strengths and weaknesses, to overcome their suspicions and their jealousies. And it's a nice, heartwarming story for middle graders. So yeah, that was my first one. The second one was off the book long list, and this was Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. I'm hopeless at pronunciations. I really am. I need to practice. Now, Clara is an artificial friend, and Clara narrates the book. She is brought to be an artificial friend to a teenager, Josie, and she's a lovely, naive narrator, and you see the world through her eyes, and you understand some things through her eyes, because you find that you begin to know things that Clara doesn't. And it's a really lovely story. And I found the ending is very sad. And it sort of questions the value of AFs and our throwaway society. And I really, really enjoyed this one. This is one of my contenders for my book of the month. The third one was also from the book list. This is the third one I read this month, and that's An Island by Karen Jennings. And this one is about Samuel, who has lived for 23 years as a lighthouse keeper on an island, shaped like a man. And he lives a solitary life until this body washes up on the island. We are almost in present time, when we've got the refugee boats going backwards and forwards and those that capsize, and he was often finding bodies that were washed up, which he would put into a wall he was building. He would entomb them in a wall he was building. But this body is still alive. And it covers 4 days, and you have almost I would say it's not really a battle, it's Samuel's fear that this chap that he can't understand because he doesn't speak Samuel's language is there to take the island from him. And this young chap who's landed on the island, you get his fears that Samuel is going to hurt him. So you've got a threat of violence all the way through the book. And as you learn more about Samuel's story, you learn that it was violence and humiliation that shaped him and made him the man that he is now on the island. And it's a powerful novel about guilt. It's about fear, and that one is a really an emotive one to read. That was quite a good one. Number 4 for the month. Oh wow, that was a Netgalley book that comes out. I'm not even going to tell you. I'll put it in the box below. It's Gilded by Marissa Meyer, and it's her retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. And oh wow, I loved it. It's set in almost a dark world. You've got, instead of the king capturing the girl and this little goblin figure coming to help her spin straw into gold, which is the fairy story that we all know, we have got the evil king is actually is he a phantom? Is he a ghoul? Is he an undead? He and his party of undead and ghouls come out from his castle every full moon, and they hunt animals, they hunt villagers, and the villagers almost are in fear of the full moon and the hunt, when the Earl King will ride and take. So he is the evil king. Our young lady, Cerilda, she has been cursed by the god of lies, and so she's a storyteller. Her stories are full of fantasy and lies. And she tells the Earl King that she can turn straw into gold. So he believes her, or he tests her, and he captures her. And he puts her in his castle with a whole load of straw. And she doesn't find a goblin when she calls for help. She finds a ghost, an undead, a young man called Gilded, who is a sad character. He is a lovely character. And you've got this bond between them. And oh wow, it is lovely. You've got gruesome ghouls, you've got sadness, you've got truth, you've got excitement, you've got fae, you've got magic, and I can't wait for the second book to come out, and that is also a contender for my book of the month. Moving on, the next one was a Booker Prize, and that was A Town Called Salace by Mary Lawson. And this is a family saga. We've got the intermingling of 3 families. We've got Clara, whose sister has run away. We've got Mrs. Orchard, her next door neighbour, who is in hospital and telling her story and wanting to get a confession off her chest. And then we've got Liam, who moves into Mrs. Orchard's house, and his story and his connection with Clara and Mrs. Orchard. And if you love family stories, family sagas, this is definitely one for you. The next one was The Fell by Sarah Moss, and that was another Netgalley book, and I really enjoyed this one as well. And it's set in November 2020 during the second lockdown, and we have Matt and Kate. Kate is suffering from terrible claustrophobia because they are having to self-isolate for 14 days because Kate came in contact with somebody. And she decides to break quarantine and go for a walk on the fells. And it's a story that takes place in a matter of hours, and it talks about things it talks about the human cost of lockdown, not so much the pandemic and the COVID, but the effect of people being isolated, being shut away from families, shut away from everything they know. And it is a really, really powerful book. I really, really enjoyed that one. And my final book of the month, I think is my final book of the month. Oh no, it isn't. Two more. Another one from the book A Long List, and that was Patricia Lockwood, which didn't really sell me. It's written as though it's a whole load of tweets. It's almost in two parts, and the first part lost me really because I'm not part of their social media crowd, so I didn't understand all the references and the in-jokes. Second part though is really moving. And my final book is was being touted as the thriller of 2022, and it's Breathless by Amy McCulloch. And it's a thriller set on a chilly mountain. You know, it's almost a claustrophobic thriller, but you're out in the mountains. But, you know, you've got a small group of people and there's no escape. So that was Breathless. That was really, really one to look out for. My book of the month, the ones that I enjoyed the most, well, there was Clara up there. There was Gilded up there. There was The Fell up there. But it has to be Gilded because I just love the fantasy retelling. So my September was sizzling, and I'm moving on now to October, see how many I can read in October and what my October highlights will be. So happy reading, take care, and bye.